Hello and welcome to today's webinar on accessibility, requirements and resources for DE courses. I'm Tracy Shalem, the DE faculty coordinator at Southwestern College, and we have lots to cover today, so let's jump right in. We're talking about requirements for access to online courses, or really any course that puts materials online. And just to kind of remind everybody that this is not just something that we're making up, we have lots of colleagues at other colleges and universities who are actually facing lawsuits for lack of accessibility in their online materials. The example you see here has to do with captioning, but there are other areas that we're going to be discussing today as well. So yes, the threat of a lawsuit can definitely be a motivation to make materials accessible, but really so is helping our students. Good design helps all students learn better. And for our specific system, the California Community Colleges, our Chancellor's Office has put out guidelines for accessibility in our online courses. And this guide that you see here will walk you through all sorts of aspects of accessibility and lots of questions that are specific to the online environment. I'm going to put the link for this in the chat window as well, so that you can either open it up now or bookmark it for later if you'd like to. So here is one excerpt from the Chancellor's Office guidelines. This is in the frequently asked questions area. So the question is, do I have to? Do I really have to make my courses accessible? And the short answer is yes, we do by law. And as you can see here, one specific federal law is being mentioned, Section 508, as well as California law. And so basically these laws ensure that all students are able to have equal access to their course materials, course assignments, etc. And some of the other things you'll see down here at the bottom, you'll see a mention of Section 508 as well as WCAG 2.0. These are the specific kind of technical details for meeting those accessibility requirements. And you'll also see universal design mentioned here as well. And so working together, these really ensure that a wide variety of students can make the most of our courses. So today we're focusing on three major areas: accessible images, accessible text, and accessible videos. Some of the things that we talk about today, you will discover that you're already doing, and some of the things might be some new ways to make your materials more accessible that you hadn't really thought of. And we're actually basing these on @ONE's 5 tips for better accessibility. Donna Eystone is one of our systems experts in accessibility. She also works with the Online Education Initiative, and she boiled it down to these kind of top 5 tips, and I've distilled that even further down into 3 for us today, since we only have an hour. Her 5 are using the formatting and styles that are already built into, say, Microsoft Word or a page in the course management system. A second one, which I have combined for our purposes today, is to make sure that your text, your link text is meaningful. In other words, if you have a hyperlink, you're not putting the entire URL in the page for your students. You are making the link meaningful words that go to that page. Using alternative text with images is essential for no vision or low vision students so that they can understand what it is that the image is conveying. Providing captions for videos is also a really big focus for our system. And then the last one is to make sure that if we are using PDFs, that they are accessible. And that actually goes back to 1 and 2 here. If the text of the document is accessible, and if the images are accessible, then it's relatively easy to make that into an accessible PDF. So essentially we're looking at text, images, and video. All right, so let's tackle the text first, the documents. We're going to be looking at them from the image point of view first, then we'll come back and look at them in terms of some other issues. So in terms of making sure that the images in your documents are accessible, anytime you're using an image, which could be a photo, it could be a graphic, it could be a logo, it could be clip art, anything that is an image needs to have alternative text so that it can be read by a screen reader. So people who are going to be interpreting what is on your page using a screen reader are using a device that will read out loud everything that it comes across on the page. And so when it comes across an image, it needs to be told what that image is. And that's where the alternative text comes in. It's an alternative for the image. And so basically you want your alt text to be concise, around 8 to 10 words if possible, and you want it to be contextual. So you want it to be language that makes sense in terms of what you're doing with that document, what you're teaching. In other words, here's the key question: what do the students need to know? If they can't see the image, what do they need to know to understand what you're conveying with that image? And the image that you see here gives you more or less what it will look like in Microsoft Word. Different versions will set this box up slightly differently. But you'll have an area for a title and you'll have an area for a description. We're just focusing on the description here. Feel free to ignore that title field at the top. If you were in Blackboard, you would do this in this area. It's called image description. And so if you're putting an image into Blackboard, look for the image description area. If you're in Canvas, you will see that when you click on the image from the Rich Text Editor toolbar. And right here, you'll see it says Alt Text. That's where you will put in the image. And there's a little reminder underneath it of what to do there. Describe the image to improve accessibility. So before we move on to talk about text, let's see if you have any questions about images. So essentially, anytime you're using an image, you want to make sure you have alternative text. I think that some of you have been doing this already, but maybe that has brought up some questions that you'd like to cover before we move on to text. If so, now's a good time to put those in the chat window. Okay, so let's move on to documents then. This can be a little bit more complicated depending on what program you're using. So basically the bottom line is whenever you're typing in content into a course management system or into a document, you want to make sure that it is structured so that you have sections that students can use to help chunk the content. And this is great for sighted users as well. If we can chunk the content into sections, then we're able to make sense of it and remember it better, and then go back later to that exact section we want to go to without having to reread everything. So if you already are putting things into chunks, like for example a syllabus has sections, that's helping the sighted readers of your syllabus, and if we build in accessibility, it can help people using screen readers also. Syllabi tend to be really long, right? They're 5, 6, 8, 10 pages or more. And you wouldn't want somebody to have to reread it every single time just to get to the, the section on tutoring that's on page 8. And so having sections lets people skip through to get to the section that they're looking for. And a visual reader can do that just by turning pages. Someone using a screen reader needs to have that option as well. And so by creating these headers, it lets the screen reader recognize where those sections are. So what you see here is a view in Canvas on top and Blackboard underneath. And this is where you would select the headings. So in Canvas, the first heading you can select is 2. 1 is reserved for the title of the page. And so if you had 3 major sections on your page, you would use header 2 to indicate the titles of those sections. So notice in my example here, I'm just highlighting that word or phrase that is the heading for that section. I'm not highlighting all the text below it. Because remember, we want to be able to use these to skip from section to section. We don't want the words themselves to be part of that title. So in Canvas, it would look like this. Underneath, you can see in Blackboard, it's very similar. In here, they're called heading and then subheading 1 and subheading 2. that essentially is the same as the heading structure up here with header 2, header 3, header 4. Yes, and Ari is saying using these styles or headers really lets students get to the place that they need to without having to take a long time. Yes. And by the way, you'll probably find that once you get in the habit of using these, it really helps you too. So even though I'm the one writing my syllabus or writing the pages in my course, so that familiar heading structure, it draws my eye and I can see right away that I'm into a new section. So I actually use these just in meetings when I'm taking notes because it helps me chunk the content as I'm creating that content. So I think it's a great strategy for a wide variety of users. Okay, let's move on to Microsoft Word. Same concept, just a different system. So we want to give our documents the same kind of structure, and this is where you find it in Microsoft Word. Again, this will look slightly different depending on your version, but if you're using a version of Microsoft Word that has the ribbons, you're going to the Home area, the Home tab, and then you want to look for the Styles menu. So the Styles menu is usually going to be on the right-hand side of the page, and you'll see it has headings built in too. Heading 1, Heading 2, Heading 3, etc. Normal is selected by default. That's just for regular text. And then when you have sections, you can use Heading 1 for your main sections, Heading 2 for the subsections, or you can use Heading 1 for the title and Heading 2 for the subsection. In Word, you have a little more flexibility because you have a title option as well. So as long as you're following a structure where Heading 1 is maybe the biggest heading, and then subsections are using Heading 2, and so on, then that is going to give your document the structure it needs to be accessible to someone who's using a screen reader. And Ari is pointing out something really important here. You can define the styles to look however you want. So if you don't like this blue and you don't like this font, that's okay. If you start by marking it with the heading, then you can go ahead and change the color, the size, you can bold it. Just don't go too crazy with all that because you could build in accessibility problems. For example, if you choose a font that is difficult to read, if you bold it and underline it and italicize it, that's also creating barriers. Or if you make it a really light color, then some people will not be able to see that because it doesn't have enough color contrast. So the ones that are default are built in to maximize accessibility, but that doesn't mean that you can't customize those. So for example, instead of blue, if you want to use purple, go ahead. Make sure it's a dark purple though, so that there's good contrast. And then if you want to bold it, great, no problem. Be consistent though for your sighted viewers too, so that everybody gets used to a certain process that you follow to give your document structure. Okay. Let's talk about a couple of other things that have to do with text. So that was a big one. Making it structured is going to be a huge help to everybody who's reading your document. There are a couple of other things to remember too. If you are using images in your document, be sure that you've provided the alternative text for them. If your document has tables, those tables can be structured as well. So you want to have a way to indicate to somebody that the top row, most likely, is the header row. And so there actually is a way to do that in Microsoft Word. And it's just a couple of clicks to get it done. You can go to, I'm going to share a link with you in a little bit, to WebAIM, and they have some nice tutorials that can walk you through how to do that. Also, don't forget the hyperlinks in text documents as well. So we've talked about how to do this if you are creating a page in your course in Blackboard or Canvas, but you want to do this for your documents as well. So instead of saying, visit WebAIM to learn how to convert a Word document to an accessible PDF, and then putting this big long URL here, you can simply make the word WebAIM into a clickable link. And so that looks better. It takes up less space, and it's way better for a screen reader. Because if you leave it with the URL, the screen reader has to read every single letter and mark of punctuation every single time, which is a huge waste of time and very frustrating to the person using the screen reader. And even if you're not using a screen reader, this just looks much cleaner. So just like you see on other websites in your tours around the internet, you want to make your hyperlinks meaningful link text rather than a URL. Okay, and then let's talk about converting those documents into PDFs. So most of the time in your course, you'll be putting the content of your course into regular content pages. But there are times where you might want to use a PDF. If you have something that's really long or has some complicated formatting, or you don't have access to the document version of it, maybe you're using it by permission and you need to keep it as a PDF. So when you do have an occasion where a PDF is what you need to use in your course, just a couple of things to keep in mind. In general, PDFs are less accessible to a whole range of users. So don't use them unless you really need to. Here are a few things, a few examples to think about. If you are presenting your content in a PDF and your student is accessing it using a mobile device, it's difficult to open that PDF. It takes a few extra steps. They have to have the software, the app installed to be able to do it. If they're on a home computer, they have to have the software installed to be able to open a PDF. And if they're using a screen reader, unless the PDF is saved properly, it can be inaccessible. So in general, an HTML page or a page in your Blackboard or Canvas course is always going to be the most accessible. But if you do need to use a PDF, here are a couple of things to think about. Most versions of Word will let you convert your Word document into a PDF right there in the program. So here's an example of what that looks like. If you go to Save or Save As, you'll have the option to save it as a PDF. It might be an Adobe PDF if you have Adobe installed, or it could just be saving it as a regular PDF. That's fine too, with a couple of caveats. We will discuss those in a minute. So if you are doing it this way on the right-hand side, the Save As drop-down menu will have PDF. You'll select PDF. And the first time you do this from the computer that you're using, do click on Options and double check that you have this box activated, Document Structure Tags for Accessibility. If you don't have this checked, then the PDF version won't have all of that structure with the headers that you set up. You only need to do that once, and then that should be set for that particular computer. Okay, so you'll notice the examples I gave you on the previous slide were for Windows. If you use a Mac, there are a couple of additional things to keep in mind. In general, Microsoft Office for Mac is not nearly as accessible as it is in the version for Windows. So the good news is it's gotten a lot better. In the most recent edition of the 2016 version of Word for Mac, there are improved accessibility features. If you're using something prior to 2016, when you make a PDF, it will not be accessible. It will lose all of that formatting. So if you're using a pre-2016 Mac, number one, you could just upgrade it to the 2016 and take care of the problem, or you could go into Adobe Pro and manually add them, or you could make the PDF in Word for Windows. So open it in Word for Windows and perhaps on another computer, or in OpenOffice, you can do it as well. And the image you see here is what it looks like in OpenOffice. But by far the easiest thing is to just use a program that is more accessible built in. So I would highly recommend that you get the most current version of Word if you're using a Mac. And you can get that on your computers on campus for free, and you can get an online version or a work-at-home version as well through the IT department. And if you're interested in Adobe Acrobat Pro, you'll find information about this in IT as well. We have a relationship with College Buys, which is through the Chancellor's office, and you can get the entire Adobe Creative Cloud suite, which includes Photoshop, Dreamweaver, etc., for $20 a year. So I use this so that I have access to the Adobe products on my laptop and at home. And one other thing that I wanted to share with everybody is a webinar that goes over in more detail how to create accessible PDFs from Microsoft Word. So this is one of several things we're discussing today, but if you want to spend a lot more time with just this one aspect of accessibility, this is a webinar you might want to check out. It has been recorded and archived, so you can watch the archive of it using the link that I just put in the chat window. Okay, so let's pause for a minute and see if we have any questions or comments, anything you would like to discuss about accessibility of documents. By the way, the @ONE webinar archives have a lot more than just this one. I'm spotlighting this particular one. But as you can see, this is part of a 5-part series on accessibility. So there are quite a few others related not to documents, but videos and some other topics in this group. And then the @ONE webinar series events are all archived and available on the @ONE for Training, or the One for Training website. So the question has come up, what colors are more appropriate to use in headers? Assuming you have a white background, which you'll have with a Word document by default and in Canvas as well, you want to use dark colors so that you have enough color contrast. Because red and green are very common in color blindness, you want to avoid those colors as well if you're using them to create meaning. So for headers, I would say a dark blue, a dark purple, a dark gray, even a dark green, as long as it's a dark color, will give you that color contrast. The thing to avoid is the light colors or the highlighter colors. Those are going to be very difficult for some people to see. And there actually are color contrast checkers online. So if you do a little Google search for color contrast checker, you'll find several websites come up, and you can use the little dropper feature and put in the background color as well as your heading color, and it will tell you if there's an appropriate enough contrast. So those are really nice to use if you have a color that you're not quite sure about. So for example, my blue color here, this actually passes. This is dark enough, but I did double check it to make sure. In many design products, you'll see, let's say this color of blue, you will see this color in 5 different shades. So you want to make sure that the one you're using is dark enough to contrast with the white in this case. And so those color checkers can tell you that instantly. Okay, so let's go on to talk about videos. So videos are a very common feature in online and hybrid courses because they let you bring a guest speaker into the class, they let you show students how to do something, and they also let you bring yourself into the class if you're making a video where students can hear and see you. So they have a lot of huge benefits in online learning, and there's a lot of documentation that instructors who create videos for their students have higher engagement, have higher retention, etc. So we just want to make sure that as we are bringing video into our classes, that we are making it available to all of our students. So first we'll go over the guidelines. Then I'll give you some suggestions for finding videos that are accessible, as well as creating videos that are accessible. So what I have here is another snippet from the Chancellor's Office guidelines for our system. And this is a pretty common question, so I wanted to start with this one. The question is, I have a video that I want to use in my DE course that is not captioned, but I don't know of any deaf students currently enrolled in my course. Do I still have to caption the video? And the answer is yes. So we don't know in advance who is going to be in our classes, and we really don't have time to retrofit accessibility on the fly. We need to make sure that our classes are accessible from day one so that whoever comes into our class will be able to access the material at the same time as the other students are. So we're talking specifically about 508 here, but really the captioning has a huge use among other groups as well. So for example, if you're sitting in a Starbucks doing your work, you probably don't want to turn on the audio for that video, but maybe you still want to watch it. If it doesn't have accurate captions, you won't understand what's going on the screen, and you will have missed that content. And for many students, they might go back to it later, or they might just move on to the next page and forget about it. It's also great if you're in a very quiet environment like the library, or you're sitting next to your kids who are doing homework, or your spouse who is trying to go to sleep. And you can't have audio then either. It's also really useful for students who speak several languages or who are learning English because they can see and hear the words at the same time. They're great for visual learners. I could go on and on. Captions are used by many, many people. And so we want to make sure that they are accurate so that they make sense. So here are some of the details about the captioning guidelines. As it says in the second sentence, generally speaking, if the video has audio and it will be stored for use later or for repeated use as you continue to teach the course, it must be captioned. Whether you made it, whether someone else made it, whether you found it on YouTube or it's owned by the college, it still needs to be captioned. Here are the very few cases in which you could not caption a video, although I still don't know that I'd recommend it. In order to use a non-captioned video, the video must be contained in a secure, password-protected environment. That would be Blackboard or Canvas. There must be no students who require captioning. And here's the big one. The video can only be used for a single term. So for example, if you teach fire science and you wanted to show some footage of a current wildfire and how it was covered by the major news networks, that might be something that you're just going to use for this particular group at this time, and you don't plan to reuse it. It's not instructional content that is core to your course. It's something you just found and wanted to share. That can be considered an exemption. If you are, going on to the next sentence here, if you are asking students to contribute video, that's also a case where the captioning is not a hard requirement. It's beyond student expertise in many cases, and it is student-to-student work. So foreign languages is the third one you'll see down here. So there are some cases where captioning is not required, but really think carefully. If there is an alternative that you could use that is captioned, that would always be preferable. So if it's something that's instructional content, you plan to use it as part of your course, you need to get it captioned. All right, so let's talk about that then. Let's talk about YouTube captioning. A lot of people find their videos on YouTube and they say, oh, but I see there are captions on there, right? They're playing down at the bottom. Except those captions usually are not very accurate. So there's a group, these two guys right here, you can see just the edge of one of them. They make a series of videos called Caption Fail. And they created this whole YouTube presence mocking YouTube's captioning abilities. Now I have to say that YouTube has gotten much better about captioning in the last year, so it's going to be hard to find a video that is this bad. But if you take a look at the captioning here, this is captioning that was done by YouTube of this video. And yes, they were playing around with it to try to trick YouTube into saying some pretty funny things. But as you can see, this is not even close to accurate, right? That's not going to make any sense to a student. Cash impersonator, cardiac UN ran into appalling and expert parking lot. That makes no sense whatsoever. And so those kinds of captions will not be adequate and will not help students understand what the video is about. So auto captioning from YouTube will never be enough. Even though it's gotten much more accurate, it still does not recognize most names, will never put in punctuation, does not actually do sentences. So you're not going to have periods, question marks, etc. So here are some options for you. We're going to talk about this in two parts. One is videos that you make, and the other one is videos that you find. So let's start by talking about videos that you make and what your options are to get them captioned. One way to do it is to upload your script. So if you're creating a video and you have a script already, it's very easy to upload it into YouTube, make a few changes for places where you ad-libbed and maybe added in some extra details, and then you just click on this one button, Transcribe and Auto-Sync, and YouTube will match up the words to you and as your lips as you are saying them. It does a very, very good job of this. So if you are interested in adding in your own captions, this is how you would do it. After the video is uploaded to YouTube, you would click on the Subtitled and CC button, and then you would look for the Transcribe option here. So this is actually what I do with most of my videos. Option number 2, you could let YouTube give it a try and auto-caption it, and then you can fix the caption. If your audio is good quality, if your voice is not moving too quickly, YouTube can do a pretty good job with the auto captions. This is an example of what it looks like. So in the blue box you can see what YouTube has done for a video that I uploaded. And as you can see, most of the words look accurate, although there is no punctuation. You can't tell where one sentence ends and where the other one begins. But that's pretty easily fixed. So for the first one, I might make it a capital H, end after students, start a capital W for the new word, etc. And to edit your captions, you click on the edit button. You would just type in those changes, and then you would save it. And now you have accurate captioning. A third option is to submit it for professional captioning. This is an especially good job if your video is rather long or if you didn't get good results from the other two methods. So to submit for captioning, you have two options. One is to upload your video to 3C Media. So 3C stands for the CCC. It's a project funded by our Chancellor's office. And it's kind of like a non-commercial version of YouTube. You can store all of your videos here. You can get links, embed code to put it in your class. And you also can request captioning with one little click here. One of the huge benefits to using 3C Media is it is already connected with the DECT grant. And so that means when you request captioning, the captioning will be done within 2 to 3 days. So it's a very fast turnaround time to get things captioned. One restriction is it has to be for use with students. So for example, I can't submit this webinar to be captioned. It needs to be used for classroom use with students. So that's a really great option that you can use for free. Another one, which we're going to actually talk about in a minute. Let's go ahead and skip over there. Another one, very quickly skip over a couple of slides here, is to submit your video to DSS to have captioned using the same company as 3C Media and using the same grant funding. We're going to come back and talk about this in a minute, but I just want to clarify one important difference. Although the captioning will be done by the same company, if you go through our college, we have to get grant approval first. So instead of taking 2 or 3 days, like it would at 3C Media, it will take 2 or 3 weeks if you go through our college, just because we have to apply for the grant funding, it has to be processed, we have to receive approval, and then we can submit your video for a captioning request. So just keep that in mind. If you go through 3C Media, it's already been approved. If you go through our college, it will be approved. It will just take a little bit longer. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about videos that are made by someone else. So these are videos that you find, for example, on YouTube. One of the best things that you can do is to narrow your search down from the beginning so that you're not looking at videos that aren't captioned. If you only are looking at captioned videos, you're going to save yourself some time and you won't find any videos that you can't use. So in YouTube, after you do a search, so let's say we are searching here for caption fail, we click on the search button to start the search. You can then go to the filters drop-down menu, and you can filter by all kinds of things, how recent it was, how long it is, etc. But one of them is by subtitles or CC. If you click on that, all of the videos that you see are going to be ones that were not auto-captioned, but were truly closed captioned. So that's a great way to narrow down your list, and it also tends to make your list populated with more academic videos as well. And speaking of academic videos, if you are in Canvas, you can do a search of our biggest database of academic videos from within Canvas. This is a great option for people who are looking for a video that is academic quality. It doesn't have advertisements like some on YouTube have, and it's from our library's database. So the little F that you see there is for Films on Demand. Our library actually has several databases, and you'll see the link down at the bottom of this slide. I'm going to put it in the chat window as well. This will take you to a complete list of all the databases that our college subscribes to. But one of them, the biggest one, is integrated into Canvas. And so anytime that you're using a text box in Canvas, like if you're designing a page or contributing to a discussion, you'll see that button. When you click on it, you can do a search for whatever topic you want. You can preview it before you decide to use it, and you can be confident that any video you find in here does contain accurate academic captioning. So that's a wonderful resource to use. Okay, and then let's go back and talk a little bit about if you send in a video to be captioned through our college. So you could send in your own video. You also could send in the URL of a video that you have found. So in the example here, this instructor found a Dove commercial that he or she wanted to use in the classroom. And so this was found out on YouTube, and the instructor sent that YouTube URL to Darlene in DSS, also included the class and section number, and this is important, sent it from the college email address that is associated with that instructor. That's all the pieces that are needed to get that grant approved. So then DSS sends it out to the grant site, they review it, they approve it, they send back approval, and then she sends it into our captioning service to be captioned. When it comes back, you'll see it's not just a video, it also has a built-in smart player, which we'll talk about more in just a minute. So here it is a little bit bigger. The smart player that comes with captioning done through the college has a couple of nice features on the side here. You'll see that the core video is here, and underneath you'll see you can hide the pane that is on the right if you don't want to see it, but most students really like it. As you can see, there is a search feature if you want to search for a word that was in that video. So let's say you're watching it for the second time and you just want to go to the part that talks about photosynthesis. You can type that in. It will take you right to that point in the transcript below and then also in the video. So this interactive transcript works the same way. If you click on a word, it'll take you right to the video where that word is being used. There's also a dictionary lookup and an encyclopedia lookup. So it has lots of features that are going to be really helpful for students and can let them get more out of the videos that they're watching. So I really recommend trying that out and seeing what your students think about it. But again, because it takes a couple of weeks, you need to make sure that you have planned ahead when you're going to use this one. A couple of other things to note about using the embedded Smart Player. You can, when you send your request into Darlene, she'll send you an email back that will have a link. I'm going to actually take you to this in just a minute. It will have a link to something on the DE at SWC website, and it will walk you through how to embed this in your course. So I'm going to take you out there right now As you can see, I have Let's Check It Out here on the slide. So I'm going to stop our sharing here, and I'm going to go out to the DE at SWC website and let you see what that looks like. Okay, so here we are at the DE at SWC website. The link that Darlene will send you goes to this page, embedding a Smart Player into Canvas and also into Blackboard. So here you will see some instructions that walk you through how to do it in Canvas as well as in Blackboard. And then underneath, you'll also see a video that walks you through how to do that. Videos don't play very well in CCC Confer, so I'm not going to play one for you now. But these are publicly available if you'd like to go directly to the DE.SWC website and just kind of check it out. But I am going to show you what it looks like. So, oops, sorry guys, clicked on the wrong button. If you look at the example here, you'll see that she'll send you a link that takes you to your video. You can grab the embed code here, and then you paste it into Canvas, the HTML editor, or Blackboard, the HTML editor. Once you paste it in there, then the video shows up on your page, and it looks like, I'm going to show you just a snippet of this video so you can see. When you paste it in, you can see there, it looks like this when you're done. So here's a page in Canvas. You can see the course menu on the side, and it displays full page like this. So students would simply click on the play button to watch the video, and then they have full access to the Smart Player on the side as well. While I'm here, I want to show you one other thing. On the DE at SWC website, you'll find under Resources a section on making videos. And this has lots of great resources. There is a link to the San Diego Community College District's website called Get Real. You'll find a couple of things from our college that have been contributed to that website as well. It's designed for our whole system to use. And it has lots of great how-to directions, step-by-step instructions for how to create videos, how to caption them. You'll see that's an option right here. And next to that, I have a link to a workshop that I do for Southwestern College once a semester during the How-To Academy on creating instructional videos. And the resources I use and the sample videos I use are here, if you click on this link. And then the last thing is a self-paced course that walks through how to make screencasting videos using Screencast-O-Matic. This is actually taught by Donna Eyestone, who has the top 5 accessibility guidelines we talked about earlier. Okay, so I'm going to go back now to our slides. I have just a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. This is where we just were on the DE at SWC website. These are the 3 areas we were looking at. There also is an accessibility area that has all kinds of great resources, including some printable cheat sheets for how to use the accessibility features in Microsoft Word, how to do a YouTube search with the filter for caption videos, etc. I'm going to put a direct link to those in the chat window. And one other webinar that might be of interest to you is in the same series, you'll notice, taking a closer look at accessibility. This one is all about captioning. So captioning considerations goes over, as you can see down here in the description, how to find caption videos, how to get them captioned, and he also discusses some of the research about the impact of caption videos on a wide variety of students. And the direct link for that is in the chat window as well. And lastly, I wanted to share with you the accessibility resources that are coming from the Online Education Initiative, which is a project of the California Community College System. And so The website that you see here, and you'll see the address up at the top, has, and it is in the chat window as well, has lots of resources about accessibility in general terms, good places to get started, as well as links to some of the @ONE webinars we've been spotlighting here, and a whole series of very short videos that are just a couple of minutes long that go through specific actions. Like there's one on making documents accessible, and it's just a couple of minutes long, and so it's more targeted. So you'll find a wide range of different options for how to learn about different parts of accessibility, and then you'll find lots of resources for further reading too. So I highly recommend that you check that out. And then one last thing to keep in mind, if you just wanted to look at all of the webinars in that series that we have been spotlighting, you will find all of them at this same address. So the last three things I've been showing you, you can find all of them at the ccconlineed.instructure.com courses 98. Okay, well that was a lot of information, and this is a good time to discuss any questions that might have come up in that last segment, or perhaps some questions that connect together some of the different things we've been discussing. And you can either put any questions you might have in the chat window, or you're welcome to unmute yourself at this point too if you would rather discuss them. We have a couple minutes left. All right, no questions. Wow, we were very thorough. Thanks, Maria. So I'm going to go over a couple of things. If questions come to you, feel free to put those in the chat window. A few things I wanted to make sure you are aware of. Our next webinar that's using CCC Confer is going to be on regular effective contact, and that will be in April. You can see the dates here. You can register on My Learning Plan. It will be archived just like this one. But in between now and then, we have lots of other trainings that are happening as well. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of those too. We have Canvas Basics training coming up. I'll be doing a few workshops on creating content in Canvas and then bringing content into Canvas. And then we have some that are specific to migrating from Blackboard to Canvas. So these are not webinars, they are trainings. Some are online, some are face-to-face. In fact, the online ones are in purple and the face-to-face are in green on this list. They're also in the same order. So the first one is online, the second one is face-to-face, as you can see with the room information at the end. And so these are not recorded and archived because they are more interactive in nature and they're less of a presentation. So if you want to attend one of these, you do need to attend it during the dates and times that you see here. And then the last thing I wanted to remind people of is if you want to get flex credit for attending this or any other training, you need to go into My Learning Plan, find the event, click on Manage, and then fill out the evaluation so that you can get in the queue for flex credit. All right, and that will take us to the end of our time together today. I'm going to stop the recording here, but before I do, I'd like to thank everybody here with us today and also those of you who are watching the archive. Thanks on behalf of all of our students who really appreciate the hard work you put in to making materials accessible for everybody.